Hello, everybody, and welcome to Question Time on our live stream using StreamYard. And I'm going to go in here and make an adjustment. We were doing some other videoing, and I'm going to virtual background and go to none so you can see my elegant office in its fine glory. So thanks for joining us. I'm John Self. For 27 years, I was an executive recruiter. I worked all over the world, 6 countries on 4 continents. I recruited across the United States. primarily, almost exclusively, at the management and executive levels, and it was a great ride. I enjoyed it a lot. I got to the point where I just as soon have a root canal without xylocaine than to continue traveling. I did it most of my 42 years in business development and in healthcare. So I'm delighted to be in this new role. I've been doing it for several years now. Questions, Your Career Questions, is a fairly new offering from our website, johngself.com. We're here every Friday at 11 o'clock, and then later in the afternoon, the replay goes up on YouTube and is on my Facebook page. So I'm glad you've joined us. Here's how it works. We take not calls. Sorry about that. We take names from people. They send in their questions, either info@johngself.com in advance, or we have occasionally a few live chat drops come in. Now, here's the deal. It's a newer show, and so it takes time to build an audience. And so a lot of the viewers that see this are it's done on replay, since it's middle of the day, and so sometimes people see it at a later date. But however you see it, we're glad you're here. If you have questions, or you want to pick up on a question I answered and you want additional information, you can always schedule a free courtesy call at the bottom of our website at johngself.com, and you can do it by phone or Zoom. And I'm glad to spend 30 minutes with you, and it's no obligation whatsoever, none. If you want to become part of our career community, that's where we do coaching, live coaching every week. We also do discounts for one-on-one coaching to help you through this very, very tough executive and management search environment. I mean, it is unbelievably challenging right now. Business Insider this week had a piece, and we picked up on it and did some additional work on that, put it on our newsletter coming out that comes out every Wednesday morning. That's on Substack, Guiding Your Career on Substack. We hope you'll become a subscriber. If you subscribe before midnight on Monday, you become a founding subscriber and you get the newsletter for free. If not, it becomes a $7 subscription charge, and we're going to be building on that newsletter and try to add a lot of value and good content for you. Let's see what else I was starting to say. This rolls out every Friday at 11 a.m. On Tuesday at 11:30 a.m., the second Tuesday of the month, we have Lunch and Learn, and we've got a great program lined up this week. The lecture is going to be on 7-day steps, 7 days leading up to your big final interview, your face-to-face, or some cases now it's done virtually, although that's not a great idea to base a job solely on the television interaction. You just can't get a good read on the company culture or the other kind of soft things that will determine whether you succeed or fail. So anyway, we got a great program lined up, 7 days of ideas and instructions on how to get ready to ace that interview. So we hope you'll join us, and we're glad you're here for the questions today. So let's get started. This is from Roger, and he is in Atlanta. I heard you use the phrase "close the deal" several times when referring to a job. What do you mean, close the deal? You know what? A salesman once went in with a newer salesperson, and the newer salesperson made the pitch, and they thanked the potential customer for coming by and sharing the information. And the young guy finished up and turned to leave. And so the more senior executive followed him out the door. And when they were out away from anyone, the senior executive said, "Now let's talk about what just happened." And he said, "Didn't I do a good job?" He said, "You did a great job on every aspect of the presentation except one, and you failed miserably." And the salesman said, "What was that?" The veteran salesman said, "You didn't ask for the order. You didn't ask him to buy the product that he was clearly interested in." And so when you're in an interview, this is about selling yourself. And you have to toward the end of toward the interview, whether you're with the hiring manager or certainly an influencer in the organization, you want to tell them you are interested. You want to tell them this job excites you. You want to tell them that that you feel like you could do a great job, that everything you hear aligns with your experiences and successes, and that you would love to come forward, be a team player, and add value to the organization. Now, you'll say it in your own words, but that's what closing the deal means. And you know what? In my 27 years of career interviewing, executive interviewing, and that's thousands and thousands of candidates all over the world, very, very rarely, I'm talking about less than 1% said, I'm interested in this job. I've coached people in healthcare and other fields, and they really were struggling. And at the end, I said, well, why don't you just tell them you want the job, that you are excited about what you've seen, and that you want to be considered, that you believe you can bring enthusiasm and passion and commitment to the community. And when they did that, 80% of them got the job. So close the deal. That's what that means. And I hope that was a successful, helpful answer for you. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. Just hit the wrong button. I'm still learning to be my technical director and the host. In my earlier days, I did radio news, and so you had all these buttons and knobs, and I was pretty good at doing that, but this is a little bit of a new thing. So thanks for your patience, and let's keep moving forward. The next question is, what do you mean when you say there's performative art and a performative art element in interviewing? I've said that several times, and I talked about that somewhat on our boot camp last Saturday, and incidentally, a lot of that content is up on YouTube if you want to go look at it. We had two great guests that talked about working as expats in the Middle East. We had a guest talk about transition from getting a job to succeeding in a job. T.D. Smyers is the Dallas-Fort Worth area coach, is a brilliant executive, a brilliant coach. And then Ron Thomas, who's built an incredible powerhouse of a consulting firm in Dubai, who's a former CHRO for Martha Stewart's company in New York. And they were two of our presenters. Ron was on live with us from Dubai, which I really appreciate given the time difference. But they both had great information, so check that out. Let's get back to the performative art question. When you're in an interview, you're trying to sell yourself. You're trying to answer their questions, but you want them to know you're interested. Let me tell you what happens. People that get hired, they get hired because they're qualified, because they have relevant experience, and because they seem like a good match. But there are going to be several people in the interviewing mix that meet those criteria. So who gets picked? Why does a prospective employer pick one candidate over another? It's trust and likability. Okay? Trust and likability. Those are the deciding factors. So what triggers that? Emotion. And people say, well, God, why do I stand? I don't stand a chance. I'm no actor. I don't even like to give presentations. I'm not a very good communicator. Well, if you're a manager or an executive, you've got to become a good communicator going forward. If you don't, you're going to find yourself on the junk heap of other management executives who don't like to communicate. And let me tell you why. Because the market's getting smaller, and you're going to be spread thinner, and TV and video are going to be part of the routine, and making presentations to larger groups will be part of the routine. So you got to become a good communicator. Interviewing is one of the most unique forms of business communication. We teach a course on that. If you're a member, you get access to that for $49 a month. But let's go back to the point. When you're trying to trigger that emotion, you change your tone. You change the speed of the way you deliver information, as I'm doing right now. You maybe speak a little bit softer. You make eye contact, and you let them know that this is a job that really offers a great deal, and that you're very, very excited by it, and that you feel that your skills align on these areas. And I want to be part of your team. I want to be part of this, and I will bring, my commitment to be a good team player and to meet your expectations or exceed your expectations. That's a little bit when you change the tone. when you slow down. It's like a good preacher does on Sunday morning when they at the end of the service, and it's Protestant services kind of laughingly refer to it as altar call, trying to get people to come down and dedicate their lives to Jesus and to try to join the church. It's very common in Protestant churches, and they make a big deal of getting new members. In some churches, the pastor is held accountable for that, so he's got to become very, very good at bringing in new people to hear his sermon and then to close the deal when he has them there. So he, at the end of the services, whether you're thinking about the great evangelist Billy Graham, or you think about just a pastor of a good Baptist church in Atlanta or in Nashville or someplace else, smaller town, they are very, very good at the end of the sermon by using a performative art technique, and it triggers emotion. And Billy Graham could get thousands of people to come from all over these huge mega stadiums or mega arenas, leave their friends and family, and come down to the altar at the front of the where they set up in front of the choir. Every time he did it, he had a way. He had a knack of doing that. And how did he trigger those people willing to get up and make that long trek down to that makeshift altar? Performative art. He slowed down, he touched their emotional triggers, and he got their commitment. And that's what it's all about. So, long answer, but it's an important part. It's an important part of being good at the job interview. And that's something we spend time on and teaching people. I get nervous before an interview. I've been told that in my worst case, my voice sounds a little shaky and I seem uncertain. What can I do to overcome this? This is from Glenda, Inland Harris County. I think that means she lives somewhere in Houston, away from the coast. And that's a good place to be today, west side, away from the water. Houston's having flash floods again. They've let a lot of water out of Lake Livingston, which is north of the city. Big, huge lake, and it comes down and the rivers flow into Houston. And when they have to release water, then you get some flooding on the east side in those kinds of events. How do you avoid being nervous? Steve Martin is always asked, and I've used this example several times. The other day I couldn't remember his last name, but Steve Martin is frequently asked because he's such a splendid entertainer, and he's very popular and very beloved. It was a great hit on Saturday Night Live back in the day, and now he does a lot of concerts. He still does some acting, and people come to him and say, "How can I be successful in show business?" And he said, what they really want, they want the answer so that there's a set of steps and you go through it and you have to achieve this and that. And he said, yeah, okay, you do that. But really how you succeed is you become so good that they can't ignore you. So how do you do that? Well, you work at it. You cannot become good at job interviews without a lot of work and a lot of practice. Be there on Tuesday at 11:30 on Tuesday for Lunch and Learn, and there's also going to be a replay on YouTube because we outline 7 days and the steps you go through to get prepared. This is not painless work. People who go and sit down and show up to answer questions are not going to be successful going forward. Why? Because the job market for executives and managers has dramatically contracted. It was starting to happen before the pandemic. It is now full on. A lot of people got laid off during the pandemic, and some of them have been able to find jobs. Some of them have not. And now we are away from the pandemic a number of years, and guess what? The market for managers and executives has not increased. Why? Because executives looked back, the CEO, and said, hey, we don't need all those people. And oh, by the way, AI is coming in, and that's going to get rid of a lot of these clerical management, sort of entry-level jobs. So we need less people there, so we'll need less supervisors. This is not going to rebound anytime soon. And so when you're going for a job, you've got to be on your A game. I mean, really top notch. And so you have to really practice. There's some good training on our site. It can't be really covered in just a quick answer here, but let me tell you this. You've got to understand your value. You've got to be able to write a value brand statement that says who you are. When they ask you, tell us about yourself, you have to be able to deliver a compelling case to the employer, not about your resume, but why they should hire you, okay? And you get ready for that by really doing the homework. You practice. You learn this value brand statement by heart. You learn how to use it by instinct. And the more you rehearse, the more confident you will become. Confidence breeds self-awareness. Self-awareness will help you do a better job in noticing what's going on in the interview and doing a better job in your overall process. When you're really prepared, nervousness kind of takes a back seat. Hope that helps you. Glenda in Inland Harris County. Let me just add, the fear of the unknown is a big driver of that of fear. And people say, well, how do you anticipate questions? There's not that many questions they can ask you in a job interview. And if you've gone through in a management or executive job, you've probably already gone through one or two, maybe three other screening interviews. Always make a list of all the questions you're asked, because you're going to hear them over and over and over again throughout your career. So don't make job hunting, career management, just a one-time event when you need to find a job. Make career management a full-time occupation or part of your job. That's going to help you as the market continues to evolve. As a department manager for a logistics company, I'm struggling to find my next job. I understand the job market continues to grow, but I'm making no progress. I had a coach who redid and optimized my resume for the industry, and it is one of the best I've ever seen, but I'm not getting any response. What am I doing wrong? Okay, let's start with the resume. If he optimized it, that's great, but you still have to customize it for each job you apply for. Okay, if you don't do that, the scanner, these automated applicant tracking system scanners that use algorithms based on the job description, won't select your resume for further consideration. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to make one of those online applications customizing your resume. You're looking for keywords and phrases, and you want to use them throughout your resume. Okay, there's no such thing as optimizing one time for an industry. That's just hokum. It is garbage that people use to charge you a lot of money. And it's just hard work. I mean, finding a job is miserable hard work. And it starts with that kind of activity right there. The second thing you have to understand is that the job market, I've been saying this already today, has contracted and it's not going to re-expand. It's now, the current executive and management hiring rate is a dismal 1.5%. Business Insider reported this week. Wall Street Journal has had several stories on it. They call it the white collar recession. And it may be a long-term factor. Layoffs continue throughout the tech industry and in the services industry, in the freight and logistics industries. There is contraction. People are slowing down. The economy, the jobs numbers this morning were lower than expected. And that can change next month, so you don't base a lot on that. But you're looking for a lot of freight people. A lot of the international carriers have reduced their workforce. They furloughed pilots very, very quietly. And so we're not shipping as much as we used to. We have geopolitical considerations coming into play. We have a presidential election that's getting ready to really heat up. And so there's just a lot of instability. And so to get hired, you've got to outperform and outprepare everybody else. You have competitors, and you've got to beat those people out to get the job. We've never really told people, listen, this is a zero-sum game. You've got to go in there and you've got to be prepared like you're going to trial to get someone convicted or to get someone acquitted, depending on what side of the table you sit. It's the same principle. You've got to go in there, understand what that employer is looking for, and you've got to be able to communicate with them. Your resume has to communicate it, so it can't be a generalized, optimized, generic resume. You've got to customize it. And you have to understand that the market has shrunk, and you have to really, really get after it to be successful. I know that that's not what you wanted to hear, but the white-collar recession is here to stay for the foreseeable future. We're projecting probably not much of an impact until the second or third quarter of next year, assuming there's not too much more domestic instability. Okay, let's see. I have been laid off twice in the last 18 months, and everybody goes, oh my God, what are they doing wrong? There are a lot of people in that boat. I work hard, I get good evaluations, and I stay out of the office politics because I don't like being the cliquishness. I don't like playing politics. I just think we need to focus on our jobs and do the best we can. What can I do to avoid being one of the chosen for these RIFs, these RIFs? This is from Richard, and Richard is in Savannah. Richard, first of all, office politics can be very negative, but office politics are also a part of every organization, whether you want to admit it or not. So what you need to do is when you're looking for a job, you're externally networking to build a network that aligns with what you want to accomplish in your life. when you get a job, you need to start understanding who are the people that are going to be the kind of people that will be supportive and that will help you when you need help. And you build relationships, and you try to identify the influencers in your department, in your division, the people you come into contact with from other areas of the organization, and build relationships with them and try to be helpful. Always go that extra mile. The next thing you have to do is you have to perform at a level where they can't ignore you. If you're just average, if you don't build an internal network, if you don't have a strong group of people who say, man, this guy Richard is really doing a great job, and we really like working with him. That was a good hire. Okay, that's something that's going to make it when it comes down. If we're going to do a layoff, do we lay off Richard, or do we lay off Peter or Paul over here who just kind of are average? So you've got to exceed performance expectations, and you have to build your internal network. Other than that, there's no guarantees, and I don't mean to be cavalier about this and dismissive. Those are the things you can do. Those are the things that are in your control, and that's all you can do. Let's say I'm beginning to worry about the stability of my career. I'm an analyst, and I crunch numbers by looking at various operating sales scenarios in our marketing department. I like the work, but lately I've heard dire predictions about job losses due to AI automation. What can I do? Let's see. This is Belinda in Nashville. Belinda in Nashville, thank you for your question. That's a good question. Mark Cuban was recently interviewed by Bloomberg News, and he predicted that within 6 years to 7 years, maybe shorter, between 5 and 10 million people are going to lose their jobs, and there's not going to really be any jobs for those people to go to because all of the things that they are qualified to do and capable of doing will be automated within 10 years. What do you do with 10 million people who don't have a marketable skill? Well, if you're in that area, what you need to do now is really identify, and there you can get this online, but there's a lot of industries that have jobs that will continue to be in place. You don't wait until it's too late. You don't wait until the mine closes or the plant closes. You start making the move and prepare yourself for the transition today. Okay, 5 to 10 years from now, you start now. Otherwise, you'll be like one of those people sitting on their front porch in a mining town in West Virginia, wondering what the hell happened and what can I do because I don't want to move. Well, what happened in Appalachia was everybody saw changes coming, and nobody went into that area or in a really concentrated, organized way to try to help these people get prepared for the change. Nobody wanted to admit it. Nobody in Appalachia wanted to admit it, and nobody in government really pushed the point because that can be a two-edged sword in a political campaign. What can you do now? Well, people have to eat. People are going to get sick. People are going to travel. People are going to, buy things. So there's going to be warehouse jobs, although a lot of the old pick jobs, where you went around the warehouse on a cart and pick stuff off the shelf to fill orders, that's now being done by robots, and that will increase. But there are other things the robots cannot do. And robots can't give advice. Robots can't mend a broken arm. They can do certain things in the kitchen, but limited. People still have to eat. And if you're really good at details, you might do well in the food business. There are lists online, and so I'm not going to take up any more time going through that. But you need to decide, what are you good at? What excites you in this list, or what of your skill sets? What are you good at? What are you excited about? And can you make money doing that? And if you can, then those are the things you need to explore in greater detail and get prepared. You can always approach community college career offices and ask, what courses they have. If you want to start a business, a lot of community colleges have a whole mini curriculum to help people get their businesses started. And a lot of community colleges have dietary and culinary programs that are a lot cheaper and more cost effective than going off to one of the big name schools. Johnson & Wales is really good. Culinary Institute of America up at Hyde Park is fabulous, but they're very expensive. And initially, if you go into a restaurant setting that you don't own, you're not going to make a lot of money. I mean, you're starting over, you have a job, but You're going to have to work your way up from garde manger chef, the stocking chef, to a line. You may work on the cooking line. So it just takes time. But those are businesses that will stay around, that are well run and offer the customers value. You don't want to get caught holding on to a job that probably is going to get eliminated, and then have to then try to then say, oh, I need to change. Well, it's too late. Don't become the guy who sits around on his front porch with no future and no hope and says, I waited too late. Don't be that person. I'm graduating from high school, and at every family gathering this spring, and I have a large extended family, I'm getting a lot of mixed advice about what I should study in college or whether I should even waste my money. We have a comfortable life with my parents and my brothers and sisters. My parents are not wealthy, and I will have to pay a lot of my own way through college. I'm guessing about $75,000 to $100,000 in debt. What do you suggest? This is Bernard from Long Island, and he obviously has a big family, so he's either Jewish or Italian. Sort of drawing stereotypes there, but you always are going to get advice. And let me tell you this: a lot of the emphasis on technology. A lot of people are saying the stuff they learned in their junior year is obsolete by the time they graduate. So what you might want to do is take some courses where you can develop skills that are going to be active and needed in the workforce. And then also take some courses in English literature, government, social studies, sociology, world history, so that you have a broader perspective, okay? Don't go into something and basically spend $100,000 getting a trade degree. That's silly, because you'll never get your money back and you'll be in debt for the rest of your life. Be practical. Think about return on investment. And there are a lot of good community colleges where you can get a good education. You can be very successful in this life and avoid going to an Ivy League college and have $150,000 in debt, and then struggle to find a job. So I would decide what you want to do. Again, following the advice I gave you a minute ago, what do you want to do? Are you passionate about it? Can you make money doing it? And then explore that with college advisors and what it's going to take to get to that point. Some of those degrees, some of those training and certifications only take 2 years. So there's a lot of things going on. Just be very aware that the management market for executives and management is going to continue to be kind of like it is now, very, 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 very competitive. And some of the baby boomers don't want to retire early because they're worried about their own finances. I think we've reached, as somebody said, I think we've reached an inflection point on some of the old tried and true career lessons. Let's see, we're coming up on 11:29, so we're a 30-minute stream. I've heard the term America's Next Appalachia. What does that mean? It doesn't sound particularly helpful given the poverty and joblessness and drug addiction in that region. Those were people who, the Appalachian region was an area that was known for mining and a lot of steel mills and things like that. And when the mines closed, and there's still some coal mining going on, but coal is never going to be the supplier of energy that it once was. It's not going to be the energy source. Contrary to the political garbage you hear on TV, both pro and con, we have a very high rate right now, production of petroleum. We're really running on all cylinders, even though the industry, fossil fuel industry, the oil companies want more, and understand that. But we're doing pretty well on that right now. So coal is going to be around. There's still some coal burning plants, but it's never going to be the dominant energy force that it was in the Industrial Revolution and going forward. And manufacturing, the steel mills, U.S. Steel used to have 50,000 employees in Gary, Indiana. That's the reason Gary existed. And now if you go to Gary, Indiana, that's the reason it's a falling down, heap of decaying infrastructure. Gary, Indiana's U.S. Steel Works, which is being sold to a Japanese company with their other mills, only the last time I checked, had 5,000 employees, down from 55,000. I mean, that's a big number. So a lot of these traditional manufacturing jobs are not coming back. Automotive will still be around, but more and more of it, slowly but surely, will be done with automation and robots. Some of the traditional manufacturing that required a lot of hands and touch and a lot of people, those are not coming back. It's going to be more automation, and so you have to be prepared, to be a supplier for those factories, or to be maintenance, or something that requires you, that makes you, an integral part and a value-added part of that business. The new Appalachia is going to be technology workers and people at the lower end of the office structure that are doing analysis, that are filing, that are pushing paper, things like this. You've got AP clerks, you've got data and analysts, you've got all these people that are crunching numbers. Those people now work for the computer. The computer's giving them information. The only way they're going to survive is if they control the computer. So people who end up working for the computer are out, and that's millions of people across America. Insurance offices, big healthcare organizations that have accounts payable clerks and accounts receivable clerks, and people that it's amazing. I go in and look at a medical records office at a major medical center today, and the number of employees is probably 30 or 40% of what it was in 1970, 1980. Why? Because of automation. So it's changing. That's the new Appalachia. You don't want to get caught like some of those great people did in those small towns, and they didn't want to move. They'd grown up there. Everything they knew was there. They stayed in their comfort zone, and they really fell victim to a really bad outcome. Don't do that. Start getting outside your comfort zone today. Okay, those produced some negative responses today. I really apologize for that. I hope you'll join us next Tuesday for Lunch and Learn at 11:30. Wednesday afternoon, we're preparing a great program for you on office hours at 4 p.m. Central Time, and then next Thursday morning at 7:30 a.m. we have Career Live, and we talk about trends and employment trends and what's happening and some specific job search strategies. And of course, I'll be back here next Friday at 11 a.m. with Your Career Questions. I hope you'll join us, and I hope you'll become members in our Your Career community. We're a small group now, but we want to build. It's a great way to get a lot of value for your coaching money, $49 a month, plus great discounts on one-to-one coaching. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.